You cannot half-ass your dreams or desires. These things, these fires that live within you, that are so alive within you, are begging to be stoked. The passion that you may have had when you were a kid that you lost because you grew up and thought, oh, it's not possible for me, or oh, I'm not good enough, or maybe one of the other myriad of limiting beliefs and subconscious contracts that you decided to write in the script of your life. I want you to take back your power.
But you're awakening already, right? It's already happening. That's why you're here and why you're listening.
Nothing is broken in your world. Nothing needs to be changed. Nothing needs to be different. And yet everything is constantly changing because it is the inevitable nature of that which is eternal.
What I've come to realize in this endless searching for answers is that there really are none.
If you spend your whole life trying to get your act together, then what do you have? You have an act, right? Instead of a life.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Figuring Shit Out. My name is Vanessa Fontana. I'm your host, and if you're new here, Figuring Shit Out is a space for brave, intentional living designed to help you embrace what you have figured out courageously, to normalize conversation around what we haven't figured out, and to softly surrender to what we may never figure out. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you. If you are a frequent listener of Figuring Shit Out, please subscribe, follow, and rate the podcast on your preferred streaming platform. This really, really helps, and it's a really easy way to support my work. Today's episode is all about decision. Decision is one of the most powerful tools that we have at our disposal, and it is the thing that will separate you from most people. Most people are going to cross their fingers. They're going to hope that something is going to happen. They're going to go through the motions of not really looking too deep within themselves to really uncover what needs to be uncovered in order to overcome the limiting beliefs to make something happen. Most people are going to hope. And while I love hope, and I believe that hope deserves a place in our lives, and it is an essential ingredient to dreaming, but there's something to say about the type of hope that longs, the type of hope that wants, the type of hope that believes that something might not happen, therefore that's why we are hoping. We're hoping for the best, but we don't really believe that the best is possible, so we hope for it instead. This type of hope is sort of a watered down version of desperation. There is a difference between the type of hope that ignites you and allows you to gleam and express and get excited, and the type of hope that has no faith, and therefore that's why it exists. And so that's the first distinction I want to make, because when I say don't hope, decide, I want to be very clear that I believe that hope serves a purpose. I believe that we should get our hopes up. I believe that our hopes allow us to dream, and our dreams should be filled with the expectation that we're going to reach them. Therefore, the hope should be strong, because the hope should be built on a foundation of knowing, on a foundation of inevitability, on a foundation of I can't wait to see how this unfolds. And that's the only thing I'm hoping for, is that it unfolds in a miraculous and beautiful way. But I don't even need to hope, because I know that it will. So let's orient this conversation a little bit around the type of hope that gets us excited. Today is going to be a very direct orientation and an invitation around where you can assess where you are living your life in a glass half empty way, and where you are half showing up. Because here's the thing about decision. When you make a decision, you show up fully. When you make a decision about something, there is no other option. When you make a decision, it is already done. You have made that decision. And now there are times in our lives where we make a plan and God laughs. But in every single moment of life, we have some option. We have some option as to how we show up. as to how we decide to move through the challenges that are presented to us, the things that are unpredictable, the things that do fall right into our lap, we have the ability, the great ability to make a decision. Do you know how powerful that makes you? To be able to make a decision about something and say, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to show up. This is how I am going to act in my life. This is the place in which I'm going to move from. When you make a decision, all you need to do is take one step forward, and then everything else that is entailed within that decision is already on its way because you've made the decision. So when we talk about decisions, how they affect us and our lives, the ways that decisions shape our lives, we have to get granular because you are making decisions every single moment of every single day. Most of the decisions that you are making are not decisions that you are consciously making. They are not of the greatest use of your free will. They are decisions that you are falling into, and they are decisions that are half decisions. What is a half decision? A half decision is, I don't know, I guess, sure, I suppose I'll do that. A half decision has that desperate hope attached to it. It's, I'm not going to fully decide because I don't fully believe that I can, or I don't believe that this is possible. So I'm going to half decide. I'm going to half show up. I'm going to put half of my energy here, but I'm going to retain the other 50% or more of my energy so that if it doesn't work out, if it doesn't go right, if the decision that I make ends up being the wrong one, I don't have to bear the full brunt of it, and I don't have to suffer the full consequences of it. But what that does is it causes us to live a half-filled life. It causes us to walk around the world half awake, and it nurtures something in us that is one of the most dangerous qualities that you can have, which is ambivalence. Ambivalence is this half-assed, I don't know, this lack of care, this lack of decision, this lack of preference, this lack of desire that is not natural within us. None of us are actually really neutral or ambivalent about anything, because behind every single thought, action, behavior, decision that we make is a sponsoring thought that either comes from love or comes from fear. And when we are motivated by fear, very often we don't actually feel the fear all the time in our bodies because we are so used to feeling it. So we don't really know exactly what this fear feels like because we're feeling it all the time. We numb ourselves to it because it's so much of our normal that that's the only way that we can bear this fear that lives within us. And so the fear then turns to paralysis, then makes us frozen, then makes us procrastinate things, then makes us feel farther and farther away from our capacity to make decisions about things because we are moving from fear. And so in order for us to deal with the cognitive dissonance of wanting something but not being able to show up as the type of person to go after it because we're scared and we're not addressing the fear, we choose to be ambivalent. We choose to say, I don't really care too much about that. I didn't really want it anyways. It's fine. It's okay. But when you make the decision to show up and to live life fully and authentically with the truth of who you are within the truth of yourself, you make the decision to stare fear in the face, which means that you simply cannot be ambivalent. You cannot half-ass your dreams or desires. These things, these fires that live within you, that are so alive within you, are begging to be stoked. The passion that you may have had when you were a kid that you lost because you grew up and thought, oh, it's not possible for me, or oh, I'm not good enough, or maybe one of the other myriad of limiting beliefs and subconscious contracts that you decided to write in the script of your life. I want you to take back your power. And this begins with letting yourself want. Letting yourself have desires, awakening within you the sacral nature of who you are. The sacral is our second chakra in the chakra system. The sacral is our creativity. It is our ability to feel the depth of emotion, to move, to be embodied. It is connected to sensuality and sexuality, and we cannot live in a sensual way. And sensual doesn't necessarily have to mean sexual. but we cannot live in a sensual way in our lives, in a pleasurable way, in a delightful way, in a way that allows us to feel delight and joy if we are disconnected from our emotions, if we are disconnected from this sacral center. This is something that I learned about deeply in yoga teacher training. It is something that I have infused into my Road Less Traveled program, which is now available to purchase. You will get access to an entire 5-week course, which takes you through transmuting the psychological, somatic, and energetic limitations that you have to get to the other side, to take a road less traveled, to make these decisions in your life, and also connects you with a community of others who has done the same. You can learn more about it on my website and reach out if you have any questions or you're interested. I will also be hosting a retreat in Costa Rica in March, which I'm so excited about. And so much of what we're going to be doing together in Costa Rica is all about this creative reawakening, reconnecting to our dreams, reconnecting to our desires, reconnecting to our wants. Because in order for you to decide, hey, I want to go on this retreat, I want to do something that is for myself, like completely for myself, just out of the desire of my heart. I'm going to let myself want this thing. I'm going to let myself go on this adventure. I'm going to trust that I'm going to be safe. For you to even get that far at all is amazing. And then in the retreat, we are going to work with our inner children. We're going to work with creativity. We're going to work in workshop with each other through breath, through movement, through connection, to reawaken our creative fire and to really allow ourselves to transmute what needs to be transmuted, while also being in the jungle of Costa Rica. We're going to be doing hikes, swimming in waterfalls, riding horses, connecting with each other. There are still spots left. And when you come together with others with this intention, this collective intention, it empowers you so much. It allows the collective awakening to awaken something deep within you. I am digressing. I'm going on a little bit of a tangent right now, but I'm so excited about it. And so if you are even the slightest bit interested in Costa Rica, reach out to me over Instagram. Let me know that you're interested in Costa Rica. If you have any questions, I am more than happy to talk to you about it, especially if you're traveling alone, especially if you're a girly, which all of us on this trip are. So I just wanted to extend that invitation to you. If this is something that's really already speaking to you and you're like, damn, I have forgotten how to dream, I have forgotten how to want, and you want to reconnect to that sacral creative center in you and also the power center in you. So the sacral within us is something that allows us to feel our emotions, to feel embodied. And when we are able to lean into the pleasure of a moment, the joy of a moment, which I've been talking about, this unapology, this ability to be unshakable in your essence, in your true essence. And I will caveat this by saying the unapologetic fearlessness that so many of us strive after is a bit of an ideal that is kind of unattainable. We're never going to be fearless, but we can get better and better at minimizing our fear, not letting it take up so much space, at telling ourselves who we are, deciding who we are, and making that way bigger than any fear that exists. You have to think about it like a rubber band, okay? When you have a rubber band and it's really tight, you have to expand it a little bit and then contract it. So it's going to expand and then it's going to snap back. And then it's going to expand a little bit more and then it's going to snap back more. And then it's going to be able to expand more every single time. And so that's what's happening with us. We are constantly expanding, snapping back, seeing our fears for what they are, looking them dead in the eye, and then expanding more and then snapping back and then expanding more and then snapping back. And so when we get comfortable with this process, we decide to commit to the evolution of ourselves, of who we are, of what we truly want. We know that fears are going to come. We know that they are natural. We know that we have the tools to change and reorient our thinking about them. And that is what allows us to be fully, completely rooted in our decision-making power. When you decide something, you separate yourself from 99% of people. You allow yourself more opportunities to get the things that you want in this life by letting yourself want them. If you don't let yourself want the things that you want, if you don't sit there and say, this would be so nice, I can almost just imagine how it feels to have this thing. Well, then you're never going to have this thing if you can't even dream about it, if you don't even let yourself go there for longer than 10 seconds, if you don't even know how to ask for it because you don't know how to identify it because you are so disconnected from yourself, living in that fearful state, unawakened in your sacral chakra, unawakened in the power and the truth of who you are.
well, then you're going to stay in indecision. You're going to stay in ambivalence. I heard this on a podcast. I think it was the Mel Robbins podcast, that the most dangerous thing for relationships is actually not fighting. It's not resistance. It's not resentment towards the other person, which are all pretty toxic poisons to relationships. It's ambivalence. It's when you stop caring. It's when you start expecting things to just go wrong, things to just be how they've always been, to not get better. It's when you start expecting the worst and being numb to it and not even wanting to change it, not even wanting more. When you have lost the passion and the fire of anger in a relationship and you've just become ambivalent, that is the most dangerous thing to any relationship, to any romantic relationship, to any friendship, to anything. I will say that this ambivalence is something that for many of us who are breaking cycles in our family for the first time of generational trauma and generational pain, which is so much of the figuring shit out audience, that ambivalence is something that we learn to protect ourselves, that indifference is something that we learn to shield ourselves with, that not feeling the fullness of our emotions is what allowed us to survive in these chaotic environments, and being able to reconnect to who we are takes work. It takes practice. Being able to feel at all takes work and takes practice. And many of you know this because I've talked at length about it on the podcast before. But if you don't, I had to do intensive somatic therapy and EMDR therapy to learn how to feel again. I had done all of this self-help work. I started to do talk therapy when I turned 20. And I got to this point of seeing so many areas of my life that I wanted to change, but I couldn't change, and feeling this sense of numbness that just lived within me, and almost this lack of ability to access the full range of my emotions until something would happen that would trigger something. So I would go through these periods of my life where I would feel really good and stable, and then something would knock me off and I would be so emotionally unwell. I would be so emotionally unstable. All of this trauma that was living in my body and in my brain would resurface, and I would experience these really intense flashbacks. I was having panic attacks all of the time, like clockwork, from ages like 18 to around 21, when I started to really deepen into my therapy practices and into my healing work and rediscover spirituality within myself. That is really when everything shifted for me. But this took years of work, and what was really going on is that I was so deeply disconnected from my emotional capacity. I learned to cut myself off from my emotions, and therefore I didn't feel the full extent of them. But you can't run away from your emotions. They will come up. They will be triggered. We have to learn how to hold space for the full range of our emotions, past, present, and future. We have to learn how to process what wasn't processed, how to feel what we are feeling in the moment, and to transmute it and to allow it to come through us and not store it in our bodies. And we have to feel what we want to receive. We have to allow ourselves the capacity of desire, the capacity of feeling joy, the safety within us to not be in survival so that we can be in creation. And so what really helped me with this was particularly EMDR therapy, which I have an entire podcast episode on. I interviewed an EMDR therapist. If you're interested a little bit more about my story with EMDR, how it helped me heal, and also what it is, and if it's right for you, I will link that episode below. But a lot of EMDR therapy focuses on the fact that trauma is stored in our bodies and we don't have access to it. When you are in a fight or flight situation, when you are in survival, the prefrontal cortex literally shuts down. Do you know what your prefrontal cortex does? It controls higher level decision making, the ability for higher order thinking. The amygdala, which is the emotional center of the brain, literally starts working overtime and secreting hormones that cause stress in our bodies and take us away from the ability and the access to experience the emotions that are underneath that fight or flight. Our bodies are literally fearing for our lives. They don't know the difference between something happening in a stressful situation, like in a home environment, and literally being on the edge of a cliff about to fall off of it. Your body is in a state of thinking it's going to die. That is how serious it is. And so when you live in that for so long, you are used to it, you are disconnected from your emotions, you need something to be able to re-access them. And talk therapy, journaling can only get you so far, because this shit is stored in our bodies. This shit is stored in our memories. This is stored in these deep
parts of us that we have to go then ask for help from professionals to access. So EMDR helped me a lot to really be able to process those emotions. How it works is it pairs the left and the right sides of the brain together while processing traumatic events, being able to access emotions and memories and feeling states with this bilateral stimulation that you use to connect to different parts of your body while you are experiencing these emotions. And then it basically teaches you how to feel again. And then somatic therapy is just body-based therapy. It's movement. Yoga is a form of somatic therapy. When I did yoga teacher training, I released so much that was living in my body. Dance, ecstatic dance is a form of somatic therapy. Exercise could be a form of somatic therapy. Anything where you are moving your body intentionally to get out energy, to get out feeling states, to feel emotionally and to process. There are many different types of somatic therapies. And so I just want to preface by saying, if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, but I'm trying to make decisions, but then I keep freezing or I keep procrastinating and, I start and then I stop and I don't know why, it's probably because you are still living in a fight or flight state and you might need to reconnect to your emotional center. You might need to go and do some of that preliminary work where you're processing emotions that you are finding to be stuck in your body because you haven't ever processed them. And so that's sort of the 101. I've talked a lot about that on Figuring Shit Out. And so now it's like when you've started to do that work, when you've started to access more of your decision-making power, when you've started to move through some of these things that have happened to you and really live in the present moment and stop living in the past familiar version of yourself, how do you then go forward? How do you then decide to show up? And that's really where we have the ability for decision making. I also want to say that this is not a sequential process. You don't have to go heal everything and then you can make the decisions and then you can follow your dreams and do what you want. It's all a symbiotic process. It's all really a collective, connected experience. So you don't have to go and do EMDR for a year and a half like I did before you could start making decisions about your life and, living with an empowered, embodied state. There are so many different tools and things that can help us access the truth of who we are. And that is really what I'm encouraging, is that these are all tools and you can really just find what you gravitate towards, what is aligned for you in your toolbox, to then go and deepen the experience that you have of yourself and you have of living your life more fully and decisively. Ambivalence is a product of survival state. Ambivalence is a product of being numb. Ambivalence is the decision to make no decision. The decision to make no decision is a decision. And it's a decision that so many of us are making when we are not allowing ourselves the fullness, the bigness, the expressiveness of who we are and what we want in this life. When we are not even able to admit it, when we are not even able to say it out loud. And this is hard for many of us. We have to practice this. We have to practice looking ourselves in the mirror and saying, I want this thing. These are my dreams, because we feel silly for having them because we don't believe that they could be true. But the more that you practice feeling them, the more that you practice allowing yourself to be in that embodied state, the more you decide. And that's all it is, babe. It's a decision that you are worthy enough to have the dreams that you do. It's a decision to practice the feeling of what would it be like to try it on and to live in this way that is true to me today for an hour. What would that look like? And then you do it. You don't have to do nearly as much as you think that you have to do to start living the life that you want to live, to show up for something bigger, to be committed to something larger than what you fear. And so many of us are unconsciously committed to what we fear. And you can tell that you are committed to what you fear by the way that you show up in your life. Are there things that you want that you're not admitting to yourself? Are there dreams that you haven't even opened the can of? Are there things that you keep putting off that you know you want to do? Calls in your heart that keep calling you, but you keep ignoring them. Intuitions that are just about screaming at you because you aren't listening to the subtle whispers that first arose in you, those subtle whispers that we all hear. We all hear them, but we choose to ignore them. And so then our intuition starts screaming at us. What are you deciding by not deciding? How are you committing to what you fear in your life in a much more decisive way than you're committing to what you want, what you desire, to what you love, to what is true to you. You have one life. You have one life. We take it for granted. We don't realize until someone passes away, until something gets ripped from the ground underneath us, until uncertainty inevitably finds us, that we have this one life. Why does it always take a wake-up call to start living it, to start deciding that it's ours to live? You don't have to ask permission to want the things you want. You don't have to ask permission to go after the things you want to go after. You don't have to question if you should take up the space. When you decide to do so, the decision is already done. The energy speaks for you. Your power decides. Now, speaking of decision-making power, one of the absolute best ways to enhance your ability to make decisions and to root into your power is by allowing yourself the ability to make those choices instead of just acting on impulse. And we allow ourselves the space to not act on impulse when we meditate and when we prioritize our mental well-being. And this is why Calm is the sponsor of this episode. Calm is the #1 app for sleep and meditation, and it is here to help you feel better, make empowered decisions, and reconnect to your power. So if you're feeling like you could use some support making these decisions, allowing yourself more clarity in navigating life's ups and downs, you can use Calm's sessions. They have guided meditations to boost your focus, to build healthier habits, to take care of your physical health. They have sleep stories and sleep meditations and calming music to help you drift off into restful sleep, because how can we make better decisions when we're not well rested? They have grounding exercises to help you reset and come back to yourself when you're feeling overwhelmed. The Calm app puts the tools you need right in your pocket. So stress and anxiety relief is always within reach, and you can make better decisions. Calm has over 2 million 5-star reviews and can help you stress less, sleep more, live mindfully, and connect to your power. Calm your mind and change your life. That is what they say. That is what I say. So Calm has an exclusive offer just for listeners of our show. You can get 40% off a Calm subscription at calm.com/Vanessa. This is an amazing value, guys. Go to calm.com/Vanessa for 40% off unlimited access to Calm's entire library. Calm.com/Vanessa, and tell Calm you heard about them from me. Your emotional decision to decide has already set the motions in course for whatever is on the other side of that decision, whatever joyous experience that you are after, to come into fruition. But it cannot come into fruition if you keep deciding and then saying, oh no, actually, I don't actually think it's real. I don't actually think I'm worthy of it. Deciding and then, I don't know, maybe I'll take back 50% of that decision and I'll go over here. Deciding and then blaming someone else for it not working out because you actually decided to hold back in your fullness and your capacity for decision making. We have to be so meticulously aware of the ways we are limiting ourselves, the ways that we are committing to what we fear rather than what we want. I'm going to tell you guys a story, okay? I clocked this in me this morning, and that's part of why I'm sitting here talking to you about this today, because this is something like all of Figuring Shit Out, like every single one of my episodes, something that I need to hear, something that I need to remind myself of. And what am I but just a mirror for other people who are finding more of themselves? This morning, I found myself waking up and thinking about the situation that I was really unhappy with, and a little context about the situation. I signed up for this course and I'm currently taking this course, and it is really insightful. It's very educational. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and something that I'm feeling really could change, the course of my life, especially financially, if I decide for it to, if I really commit to it. And that's really what this is all about, is decision and commitment. And essentially, this course isn't totally what I thought it was going to be. And I think that this also comes from me being someone who has created a course before. I put my whole heart
soul, energy, attention into building the program that I built. And I wanted to deliver such value beyond value to the person on the other end of it. The way that I showed up before in my programs, I was sort of expecting the same quality and attention in the program that I'm in now. And it's great. It's not exactly what I thought it was going to be, but nonetheless, I'm still learning a lot. And nonetheless, the decision here is for me to either write it off and say this was a waste of money and blah, 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 or decide to actually just go after the thing that I wanted and the thing that I knew that learning these things would bring me, and to get my investment back by putting in the commitment. Not even the work. It's not even about the work. It's about the commitment. Because when you commit to something, when you decide how something is going to be, the work flows naturally because it's a decision. There's an alignment. If you've decided something, it's inevitable. Therefore, why wouldn't you do the things that are required for you to get what you want when you've decided that you are getting what you want? You hear me? So because I haven't decided that I'm getting what I want, I am going back and forth on this feeling of emotional ambivalence. Instead of putting my energy and just focusing on what is good about this course, there's many things that are good about this course, okay? It's not a shitty course by any means. It's just not what I expected, really. And it's not what I thought I was going to get. That's it. And I'm not going to go any deeper into that. Like, no shade to the course whatsoever. It's great. It's just not what I expected. I could either just accept that and decide to get what I had intended to get out of it, or I could continue spending my emotional energy thinking about how it's not what I wanted and getting so down on myself and blaming the person who created this course for it not giving me what I thought it was going to give me, instead of just taking the responsibility in me, because the responsibility is my own of what I get out of this. It is what I put into it. It is the decision that I make out of it. I have led courses and programs before and containers. I know how it goes. I know that you have to put in the work to receive, and you have to decide that you're going to receive in order to do so. You have to show up fully. And admittedly, I was not showing up fully because half of me was in this little ambivalence over here, having these negative thoughts and feelings, and I was feeding them. I was feeding that wolf. And I recognized this in me this morning. When I woke up, I heard these thoughts. And then I did my breathwork practice, my heart opening practice. I do a heart opening practice every single day. And this heart opening practice really allows me to just sit in the root of my heart, to feel deeply into love. It allows me to make decisions from love, to lead from love, to see life with love. Because again, so many of us are moving from fear. Fear is our almost automatic response to everything. We have to train ourselves, wake up every day and connect to our hearts in order to live this life with love. You know, some days are easier than others. And I feel like lately I've been living a lot more in a state of love than I haven't, especially because of this practice. But during this practice, I started laughing because I could just see myself like getting so mad about something that was so stupid and so silly. Like, oh, it's not what you expected, whatever. Like, you're still getting so much out of this. And I started to just watch this voice in my head that was so angry, wanted to beef so hard, wanted to be so upset. And I started laughing because I had this moment of reckoning, this realization that life is so short. Life is so short. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to spend my time getting mad. So I had to really take a look at myself and say, okay, what's going on here? What thoughts are happening? Because you can realize that it's so stupid to get upset about something and still be upset about it. It's not like it just goes away when you realize that it's so stupid to be upset about it. And so I had that realization, this is so silly. Why am I spending my energy on this? But that thought, those negative feelings were still active in me. I've been really feeding them for the last couple of days. So I asked myself these questions, and I want to give this to you as a framework that you can use when you notice yourself thinking thoughts about something that are not serving you. Because at the end of the day, we make decisions. We make decisions with our thoughts. We make decisions with our actions. We make decisions with our behavior. We make decisions with our energy. And it all starts at the most primary form, which is thought. And a lot of us don't even think about thinking. We are just thinking. We have 65,000 to 70,000 thoughts every single day, and most of them are repetitive thought forms. But we do have the power, the ability, the decision-making capacity to insert thoughts, to challenge our thoughts, to observe our thoughts and say, hey, I don't think I want to think that anymore. And this is where that thought leads me. So I want to give this to you as a framework. When you notice yourself in thought patterns, in thought loops that do not serve you, when you notice yourself deciding to fuel, to fester, to feed something that is not serving you, ask yourself this series of questions. 1, what is the situation? So you want to describe this situation. 2, what is your thinking about the situation? When I answered this, put in quotation marks everything that I was thinking about the situation, about what I was feeling about it, about the people involved in the situation. And I let myself go. I let myself be free. And this is really telling because it allows you to see what your true feelings are. And at first, you're going to notice that your thoughts are really angry and that a lot of the things that you're saying are just upsetting, but that somewhere there is fear. Number 3 is, what actions are you taking because of your thinking? And the answer to this for me was, well, I'm not taking any action. I could just be going after what I want because I have been given a lot from this course, but instead I'm complaining out loud about it and with my energy, and I'm avoiding really taking action on the whole thing because I'm upset about it. And so that was really telling for me too. This is going to allow you to see how the way that you think about something influences your behavior, your decisions, your actions about how you go about that thing, and how a lot of the time it is ambivalence. It's a frozenness. It's a procrastination. That's what it's masquerading as, but really it's just fear. And so if someone looked at me on the outside, they would just probably say she doesn't really care about this course because I'm not really putting in the work to get what I want out of it. But really, I have all of these feelings from these thoughts that are festering, that I'm feeding, that are active in that vibration. So, okay, we have what is the situation? We have what is your thinking about the situation? We have what actions are you taking because of your thinking? Then we have what results are you getting? Is your thinking helping you get your desired result? So let's think about the desired result, the thing that we want in this situation. This is where we're real with ourselves. This is where we say, you know what? The reason that I did this thing in the first place was because of this. This is what I was hoping for. This is what I wanted. And here are the results that I'm getting. And this also requires you to take radical responsibility for the way in which your thinking and your actions, which are influenced by your thinking, are influencing your results. And so you can't blame someone else. All those thoughts you have about blaming the person on the other end of whatever you're upset about, all those thoughts you have about the situation being the way it is, all those thoughts you have that make you into a nice little victim, you can't do it because at the end of the day, you are the only one who knows what you want. You are the only one who can go after it. And you are the only one who can decide to show up and decide that it's already done. So what results are you getting? Is your thinking helping you get your results? And of course, it's going to be, no, my thinking is not helping me get my results. My thinking is helping me get the opposite of what I want. Interesting how that works. Interesting how that's what we're doing literally all of the time. Number 5, shift the thinking process and look at the result. Describe the result. So describe the result that you are currently getting, the result that is happening as a product of your thinking. And then number 6, build the image of what you do want in your mind. So you're thinking, you're getting these results. Well, okay, let's remind ourselves what we do want, which shouldn't be too hard because we just reminded ourselves when we asked if our thinking was leading us to the results that we wanted. But let's describe it in detail. What's the image of what you wanted out of this? What does it feel like? Which leads us to the next question. What new thoughts can you have about this situation? So then you start inserting thoughts, okay? So for me, it was, this course is actually really valuable. I see a lot of value in it. I decided it was worth the money and I can 10x this investment. This was an investment in me. This was something I decided to do because I knew that choosing this was choosing myself, choosing my higher self. I felt a call to this. I take my fate in my own hands. I receive from this and it is up to me. Why would I let this stop me from getting what I want? And so that question really helps me to reorient my thinking around it and say, okay, here's the thinking that has been festering, and here are the thoughts that I could choose instead. And now that I've identified them, I'm going to choose them, because every time I have a thought that's not aligned, I'm going to remember this exercise, and I'm going to remember the thoughts that do serve me and that do contribute to what I want, because this is what I want. 8, what feelings could you have about this new image? Feelings that leave you inspired and excited. And so then you talk about the feeling state of how you want to feel about it. And so it basically takes the feeling state of how you were feeling about it, the decisions that you were making unconsciously or consciously. I mean, a lot of us know that we make decisions that aren't good for us, but we do it anyways. And we find ourselves just stuck in that energy because that energy has grown so much. We keep deciding to feed it. It takes a decision to reorient yourself, to shift that thinking into something that is serving you. And this is really where we come to the question of, what do you want? And what are you conditioned to want? Because for a long time, I found myself secretly wanting drama, secretly wanting heartbreak, secretly wanting all of these things that I was just so familiar with because they were familiar. And in my conscious mind, I could say out loud, no, I want love, I want success, I want all of these things. I'm deciding to have them, but all of my actions spoke differently. Everything I did spoke differently because that was the active vibration within me. That was what was fed for so long. And so I have another follow-up question for you. What are your actions saying that you want? And what do you actually want? And what are ways that you can start deciding, start feeling into, start feeding what you want, really connecting to the expressiveness and the expansiveness of that feeling daily? It's a daily practice to decide something more for yourself than you have known before. That is a decision that you make daily, because otherwise the decision that you are going to make is to continue living the life that you have kept on living, the life that you don't want to live, the life that is not right for you, the life that is built in patterns of survival and procrastination and fear and ambivalence. In order to decide truly to live a life aligned to us, we have to do so emotionally, with the evocation of our full body. Have you ever had a full body yes to something? Have you ever had a moment where someone asked you a question, asked you if you wanted something, asked you if you wanted to go somewhere, and you, before even thinking about it, just said yes? And then maybe after you said yes, you had a bunch of thoughts as to why you couldn't have the thing, why you couldn't do the thing. You had a bunch of thoughts as to, oh God, I said yes and I didn't mean it. For me, that was running a marathon. Someone asked if I wanted to run a marathon. My full body said yes. And then afterwards, I realized, oh, I got to run 26 miles now. I said yes. I decided to do it. I'm going to do it. I won't bore you guys with another marathon story. I've told the story so many times, but it was a very powerful and incredible feat. Something that I decided to do and something that I showed up and did because I decided to do it. So I always go back to it, because when you make a decision like that, no one can take that away from you. When you make a decision to change the course of your life in some way by making a powerful ass decision, no one can take that away from you. And there is such power in that. Have you ever had a full body yes? What did it feel like? And did you listen? And if you did listen, what happened? Where did it lead you? Is there a friendship in your life that came about in a really aligned way? A relationship in your life that came about in a really aligned, full body yes way? A opportunity, a job, a path that you're living now that was just a full body yes. We have to practice this feeling. We have to feel it. We have to allow ourselves to feel it. What are you indulging yourself in? Are you indulging yourself in thoughts of negativity, of patterned
beliefs about how things should be or how things are just because they have been that way before when they're not how you want them to be? Are you indulging yourself in these anchoring bits of sadness that just keep depleting you and taking you farther away from the decision to live your life fully as you are? Or are you indulging in what you want? Are you indulging yourself in the delight of being alive? Are you indulging yourself in joy, like last week's episode told you to? Because that is the greatest spiritual protection you'll ever have. That is the greatest armor that you will ever have. That is the greatest tool that you will ever have, is a joyful decision, not just a decision, a powerful, impactful, intentional, full body, yes, joyful decision. Now that is a fucking decision. At the end of the day, there is alignment and there's not alignment. And it's up to us to make the decision to see where we are acting in alignment of who we are and where we want to be, of who we are and what we want, and where we are acting out of alignment. It's really that simple. When something upsets you and frustrates you, you have the decision to ask yourself, what is the highest thought that I could have about this? What is my higher self think about this? What is the deep intuitive knowing within me that I'm probably going to come back to, that I'm probably going to discover in a couple of hours when I come to my senses? When you start getting worked up about something, when you start feeling yourself fester and get into the negative place of where you don't want to go, it is up to you to look at it and say, I'm unaligned with where I want to go and who I want to be. All it takes now that I know I'm unaligned is a decision to realign. And that's exactly what I did this morning. I noticed that there was something active within me that was unaligned. And I noticed that it was silly. And then I did the work. And it's still going to take me actually showing up in the feeling of what I want in this situation to really transmute that feeling, to really transmute the feeling of showing up with what I don't want, because I've practiced that so many times. So now I have to go practice what I do want to receive it. But that's how the transmutation process works. When you decide to lean into alignment and when you decide to prioritize it. So what decision can you make now to realign if you've been unaligned, or to deepen your alignment if you're already aligned, which hopefully by this point in the episode you are? I'm here to be real with you guys. I'm here to be vulnerable with you guys and let you know that I am still in this process of figuring shit out alongside you, but I'm also going to let you know that I'm transmuting it. And I have decided to focus more and commit more to a life of authentic connection to the deepest part of my essence, to who I am, to why my soul came to this earth, to live my life like it is short, because it is short, and to live this one life fully as Vanessa, because I only get to be Vanessa once and I'm going to miss her. That's my decision, to commit to something larger than what I fear. But of course, the fear vibration, it might still be active, but every single day that you make a decision to choose what you want over what you fear is every single day that you practice being that person, and every single day that you are already that person, that version of you, that higher self in you, is able to be awakened, is able to be enlivened, is able to be empowered in this world. Everything changes when you move from, I hope this will happen, or I hope this will happen, to it is happening, to it has already happened. I am just catching up because I've made the decision that it's already happened. And so I want you to take away from this episode an empowered, embodied sense of what you are going to decide next. And it all starts with one decision. The decision to remember how imminently powerful you are. And that this power, this decision-making power, is something that can transform your life, and no one else gives it to you. No one else gets to take it away from you. No one else gets to use it for you. It's yours. And that is what I will leave you with. Thank you guys for listening. I am so grateful to be able to talk to you, to chat with you. If you liked this episode, leave a comment, follow the podcast, rate it on your preferred streaming platform. Make sure that you get your Figuring Shit Out merch. You can get 10% off when you sign up for the mailing list. If you're interested in my Road Less Traveled program or the Costa Rica retreat in March, reach out, let me know. You can find all of the information for it on my website. It's also all linked down below. Make sure you're following my Instagram to stay up to date on the latest news of figuring shit out and on my life. And remember, if you spend your whole life trying to get your act together, you don't have a life, you have an act. So go and live your fucking life and make the decision to do so. I love you, and I'll see you next week.
You got to look for the redeeming feature. You got to look for things to appreciate. You got to find a reason to make it okay where you are. No, I've got to strive and struggle and try. That's what I've been taught. Growth and expansion is my quest. No, that's inevitable. Whether it comes easy or hard is the question.
The horrible truth is that it's an inside job. That if you're going to get that love and that respect that you've just that union starts inside.
To every experience of growth, there is an equal and an opposite. And that equal and an opposite is what drives you to that light. So you have to start inwards. You have to start first within yourself.